Picture the scene. You've got this awesome pencil work that you've done and it looks exactly as you want it to. It's dynamic and fluid and looks amazing. So you get out your inks or you start a new layer on your favorite drawing software and suddenly your drawing looks like a wooden board. It looks like a corpse. It's flatter than some people think the earth is. It's stiff. Stiff as a dick. So why is that? Before I answer that question, please consider hitting the subscribe button because it really helps. Thanks. There's one word that sums up this phenomenon: hesitation. Also a lack of confidence, practice, line weight, perspective, understanding shapes, and that's. But anyway, how do you fix it? I'm going to approach this issue in two ways: the boring way and the less boring way. I'll get the boring way done first. Now, I know what I'm about to say, you know what I'm about to say, I don't even want to say it, but I will. To fix it, you need to practice. I know it's horrible and it's not a quick fix, but unfortunately there's no short answers. You need to do the thing and be a bit rubbish for a while before you can be good at it. Take this YouTube channel as your inspiration. It's okay to be a bit One day I'll be good. I hope. If you're inking a pencil drawing and you don't want to ruin it, then you can either scan it in, print it out and then ink that, or just use a scrap bit of paper and do these exercises. But don't avoid inking until you feel that you're good enough. And I'll explain why later. This is perhaps a bit boring because it's just talking about the mechanics of drawing and it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's good to know. I'm going to talk about the arm and I'll break the arm into three sections: the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder. You've been using the wrist to write for a while and so you've developed quite a lot of muscle memory when it comes to forming letters to make words. Write out any old sentence and watch your wrist. It doesn't actually move that much, but when you're drawing it's going to be moving a lot more, and you're also going to be creating shapes that you're not really used to, which is why oftentimes people draw very small strokes and they don't look particularly good. So the first exercise to do is to just grab some paper and draw parallel lines next to each other using the wrist as much as possible, just to get used to that movement. The idea is to make these lines smooth, so try to draw relatively quickly and try and make the parallel lines quite close to each other and equally spaced. You're trying to develop the movement of your wrist as well as your hand-eye coordination, and these things will help. Using the wrist is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with drawing from the wrist, and make sure it's not hurting. If any of these hurt, you're doing it wrong. Stop doing it. It's not worth hurting yourself. Now we're going to introduce the elbow, which is very similar to the wrist. They're both pivots and it's basically the same technique as the wrist, except you're using the elbow. So plant the elbow on a surface, whether that's a desk, arm of your chair, wherever's comfortable. Now if you compare the range of motion from the wrist to the elbow, the range of motion is much larger, which means that you can get fluid, longer lines over a larger space. So with your elbow planted, just bring your pencil close to your body and then just extend the elbow out and get used to that movement. Again, everyone was going to do this slightly differently depending on what's comfortable to you, and do the same lines, do parallel lines like this, and the more you do it, the more comfortable it'll feel, more smooth and dynamic your lines will be. And the final point is the shoulder. This one is going to feel the weirdest because it's the joint that's furthest away from the pencil, and also it's a ball joint, so there's a lot of movement, but that's why it's perfect for doing circles and ellipses, which is what we're going to do in the final exercise. When you're drawing a circle, the key here is to just engage your shoulder. It's going to feel weird. Don't worry about the circles being perfect or not. It's just about getting that motion, that muscle memory into your brain. When you start to make the mark, make sure that you don't stop, so it's one fluid motion. Because again, it's not necessarily about making the circles perfect. That will come in time. It's about making the motion fluid. And the more you do these, the more you're going to feel like you've got more control over the pencil and more control over your lines, which is what we want. One of the reasons why line work doesn't look as good as you might think it should is because the lines you're doing are indecisive and they're hesitant and they look wobbly and jagged, and the main reasons for that is because you just haven't got the connection between your arm and your head. And eventually, after doing these exercises for quite a while, you'll just start to use all three parts of the arm interchangeably when you're doing your drawings. One of the best bits of news that I can give is that once you learn this, it's really hard to unlearn it. It will just become natural. In the same way it's hard to unlearn writing. It's just something you're able to do. So they're the three main points of physically drawing with your arm. And now let's go on to the less boring way. This is a bit more intangible because it's nothing to do with the physical act of drawing, and it's more to do with your attitude and your mental state. You could practice until you've got these mechanics down to a fine art, but it won't make much of a difference when it really matters if you're scared. Fear is an emotion that gets high in its own supply, so the more you're scared of screwing something up, the more likely it is that you will screw it up. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we need to put that fear to one side, which is easier said than done. So if I start to feel the fear creeping in, I just tell myself, this can't go wrong because I'm making conscious choices. You have to be able to trust yourself. Consider inking or producing final line work as a live concert that you're playing. You might miss a chord or sing out of tune for a bit, but it's not the end of the world. The next gig, the next drawing, you'll nail that chord or that line. And the truth is, most people won't notice, and of those who do notice, they probably won't care. They certainly won't care as much as you do. You need to stop thinking about what others are going to think about your drawing while you're drawing it. Just draw what you're going to draw and just focus on what you are doing right now. Now, you may be thinking that the little mantra that I said is bullshit, and that's fair enough, because of course things can go wrong. We have to be realistic, but it's not a literal statement. It's about getting out of your own way. Trust the motion of your arm to make the lines that you want to make, and you may end up surprising yourself. You may end up with a drawing that you didn't quite expect, and that's quite exciting. Now, the truth is, you might not notice much difference in your next drawing, maybe not even your next 10, but you're laying the groundwork to become a confident, fluid inker or line work artist. So practice the mechanics, trust your motion, and most importantly, have fun. Don't allow the fear of failure to stop you doing what you're doing. Produce the work, learn from it, move on, go again. That's why it's so important to enjoy the process. This is a long road. Now, where you place the lines is entirely up to you because it's your work. The key is to have variety, just like with line weight, which you can watch here or here, somewhere on the screen. So yeah, I hope this helped. If anything was confusing, or if you've got further questions or comments, leave them in the comments below or message me on Twitter. Just remember that the biggest secret in art is to be a lifelong student. So keep practicing and the results will come. I've been Brinkley, have fun drawing, and I'll see you in the next video.